Welcome to the Business Owner Mindset. Another fantastic Saturday, another great day in life. Hope everyone's having a fantastic Saturday. Today, somebody is going to tap into their inner business owner and actually form and get started their LLC or business. I don't know who, but today is the day for that person. And if one person today, one person jumps over the line of scaredness and gets into the universe of starting their business, then we've been successful today. Companies, my personal background is I worked at big law firms in both Michigan and Atlanta. I worked at a venture capital firm and ultimately served as corporate counsel to a public company, Celsius. So I love business. I love talking to business owners about business owner issues. I like to create an environment where these business owners, regardless of where they're from or what industry that they're in, that they can, the same principles of business applies in terms of just going out and making it work from the infrastructure. Each business has its own thing, right? Like Vince and Elijah each have their own business model when it comes to the treats versus the services he provides. But everybody has the same structural questions. Whether when you start in a business, because every business starts from one idea. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have, me do a presentation followed by the business owner introductions. And then we're going to go into, presentation. Then we're going to do the LLC and EIN. And then lastly, have these introductions. I want to remind you guys to join the chat, join the conversation, put your information in the chat or on the Facebook Live, and we'll try to get to some questions. Again, use the chat, tell us something about yourself, and then go from there. All right, so let's talk about, my sponsorship time is over. Anybody else want to sponsor, they can come in, but Star Walker, you're over. All right, so what is the business owner mentality? What does it mean to be a business owner? The LLC is not your business. I've had a lot of people call me and go, well, I haven't started my business yet. I just, been selling cookies, or I've just been selling these things. Your business has started. The LLC is just an accessory to your business. It doesn't define you as a business owner. It doesn't give you any extra credit about whether your business is successful or not. It's simply a wraparound of what you already have to protect what you already have. On the other hand, you cannot form an LLC and not have business. So you can form an LLC that just sits there and it'll just sit there, but without any beating heart of a business inside of it. It's just a shell. That's why you might have heard the term shell companies. Shell companies are businesses that are LLCs that have no business. They're just a shell, nothing inside. So from that perspective, I think that you have to get into what makes up the business. And the business is made up of the person, the business owner. You and what you do every day to generate revenue is the business owner. The LLC only helps that. So who are my clients? Generally 2 to 8% of Americans earn their business solely from, earn their money solely from their business, meaning that I'm dealing with a small group of people. And in fact, I think that we had a bunch of views on Facebook Live, and about 8 to 10% of them watched the whole thing. That's my market. Those people who sat through it and said, this interests me. And yes, I do want to try this. But the 54% of Americans want to do it. Those are the people who maybe watch for a few seconds and was like, oh no, this is too much, and they turn it off. So, and that's okay, because it takes a little bit of time to get to the point where you actually want to start it. What we're trying to do here is we try to start the conversation about what moves you into that category of 2 to 8%. What is it that is going to trigger you to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to actually start my business, and I'm actually going to begin the process of generating money through my business, and I'm not scared anymore. So today we want to take away everything that might keep you from doing that. And when it comes to an LLC and an EIN. So the thinking process. one of the things that makes these 2 to 8% of business owners different is that the thinking process is different than your typical employee. What the things that they are thinking about every day and how they manage their day changes significantly. And the idea is that we're going to capture what are those elements that causes them to think the way they think and how they think differently. Revenue, thinking about how to make more money and how to sell more services, how to sell more products that they have, outsourcing to people that specialize in things that they do not specialize, and then networking, like presenting today at the BOM and telling somebody about your business. So they take a lot of risk. Entrepreneurs are risky. They take their money and they say, I'm going to put it towards this service or product, and I think it's going to bring back more money than I put in it, right? Because if you put money in something and you don't get any money back, it's a business, but it's a losing business. But the business can lose if the money you're putting in is ultimately going to generate some money for later. So it's about taking that risk to say, I'm willing to put my money into something that is going to make me more money later, even if it doesn't make me money in the short term. So a lot of times people try to use these small gaps of time to try to turn over money. That's not a business owner. You got to just say, hey, I'm ready to put it in. I'm ready to go in this direction. And then I know long-term how those things are going to add up and how my business is going to start to work. Now, notice each time I said business, I did not say LLC. Again, the LLC is not your business. Your business is your business. The LLC is just a wrap around what you already have. So the mindset is really what we're going to tap into in this next 9 minutes or so, is really the mindset of the business owner, and try to figure out, what exactly is going to, trigger that spark inside of you to be able to start your business. Now, if you're a current business owner and this is boring to you, it's going to get better. But I want you for a minute to understand what it was like when you first started your own business, when you first decided that you were not going to look for a job, or that you were going to not take it anymore at your job and go out and start. It starts with a mind, and then you form habits, and then ultimately you started your business. So if you are one of those people, you should share your story when it's time to join the conversation about how you felt, because I guarantee you there's somebody that feels exactly how you felt when you started to join your business. So, and hopefully some of this resonates with you. And if it does, tell about it in the chat or later. So business owners have a different schedule on how they allocate their time. 6 to 8 hours is going to go to sleep. 2 to 4 is generally allocated for eating and traffic, etc. And then you have 12 to 16 hours to just basically make more money. This is a simple math. This is everybody's math. Business owners cannot afford to sleep for longer than 6 to 8 hours. If they do, they'll lose money, okay? Or they can't eat, or they can't work out. So instead, when they open their eyes, the first thing that they're thinking about in the morning is not an alarm clock to go to work. It's, I got to get some money, and I got to send this person an email back, et cetera, et cetera. Because why? Their time and their cash flow has started immediately. And there's no handouts. There's no one to say, hey, you just started your business. Let me give you a little money to get started. No, it's you and the world and your bank account. That's the business. You, the world, the bank account. You got to go to the world, figure out a way for the world to give you some money and put it into your bank account, right? Now, offer a service, you offer a product, but the idea is that you spend 12 to 16 hours trying to do that. Revenue. So the number one thing on top of your mind as a business owner is revenue. Revenue, revenue, revenue. I would have put it here 30 times if I could, because it's the number one thing that's going to help your business. If you focus in on expenses, you're going to drown. You're not going to make it because you're thinking about the things that you can minimize in the expenses. And business, your expenses are here. It's tell me how much that costs. Tell me what it costs. And then your expenses are moved here. Your revenue goes up and down like this, right? So you got to spend your time trying to bring in more money to dump into the account so that you can be able to pay your expenses. So your number one thing on your mind is, how does this, the actions that I'm doing, things that I'm thinking, make me money? Who's going to buy this thought? Who's going to buy this product? Who's going to buy these services? And where are they? How do I get in touch with them? How do I talk to them? How do I give them a platform to reach me? What are they thinking? Those are the things that drive a business, is that you got to constantly think about your revenue. In order to do that, you have to outsource the things you don't specialize in. Find specialists in different arenas that work with the issue you're dealing with, a website, a contractor, anybody that does, IT work, things of that nature. Don't bother with it as a business owner. I tell you what, I found out a lot about IT this week, and IT people, man, I'm so impressed about the hours of dedication that these people will have to fix a problem, because I let it go. Like, this doesn't work, and call somebody else in. But IT people, they are on it. And so, Shar, the things that you're doing for the business owner mindset is amazing. But I'll outsource that. Outsource it to people who can spend that time on it, because we have to use our time to generate revenue. Me working on my IT does not directly help me with revenue, so I have to outsource it. And then lastly, we're thinking about expanding our relationships. We get it that knowing other business owners, even if our same industry, going to networking events, participating in Zooms, talking about your business, that's what helps your business grow. That's what helps them, thrive. And you got to spend time in that space, because other business owners, right, think like you. They have the same problems. They understand your same scheduling issues. They understand about hiring people, et cetera. So there's really 3 execution phases that the business owner bounces in between. So, okay, I have the mindset, Dave. I've had the mindset. I've already been generating business. Yeah, I get it. Amen to you, preaching to the choir. Now we move on. So how do we execute, right? How do we take a business now? I have that mindset. I'm ready to do it. I have it. I do it full time. What's next? Well, there's really 3 phases that I think the business owner bounces between. There's this kind of legal structure background, right, that has a lot to do with the things that are common in every business. These things on the left are typical things that everyone has to consider. Then you have your cash flow, which is, how do I make my money? So now you're thinking like, okay, who do I have to talk to for my customers and marketing and things of that nature? And this is the business, right? This 30% is like operating the business, right? Just making sure that you're in that space. And then another phase is your growth. You've made a lot of money in your business, or you made enough money to be satisfied that you have a good system of revenue. And now you're thinking about, what's the next part of my personal growth, and what's the next part of the growth of my business? What do I want to do in terms of volunteering, mentoring? Maybe I'm thinking about setting up a foundation, things of that nature. That still happens even if you're dealing with your structure on the far left. So all of these little pieces of information bounce between the business owner's head. So today we're going to talk about the LLC and the EIN and how they tie in with some of the things on the business structure. But if you're starting off your business and this is how your mind is thinking, it's okay. It's okay that these things are all bouncing between your head and that you're trying to hold all these things at once. But that's why you're the CEO, Chief Executing Officer, because you can keep all these things moving around and not drop any plate. So on the structure side, this is, again, the things that are common among all business owners. And we're going to try to take out some of these each week and make you maybe feel like, okay, I got a little bit of control of those hexagons. But it's not easy. And some of these hexagons mean more than others. So for example, on the right, these are the things we talked about. Your LLC and your EIN tie into a lot of things in your structure. So while your business is not need an LLC, it helps with a lot of these other issues when you have them, because it'll help you get a bank account better. It'll help you get better insurance. It'll help you with your taxes. So these are all things that they help with. You don't need them in your business, but I'm sure you think about them. Also, too, on the left are other things that's part of your business that you think about, regardless if you have an LLC or an EIN, those administrative activities. You still need to put money into your business and have, a brand and a website and social media, even if you don't have an LLC or EIN. The next part of business phase is the cash flow phase. And that's the phase, again, where you start to think about how much money you bringing in and things of that nature. That's an important part of the process of a business is, this is what people think about most of the day, right? It's just, how do I keep all these things moving? And you look at this list, something on this list you've thought about, and you should probably be thinking about these lists. And this list is probably 10% of the things that can go in this category. But this is what we do with our 12 to 16 hours. And then if you're on the high end, where you've managed to kind of get into business, you've been in the business for 10, 15, 20 years, right? Like me, you start to think about other things. Like for me, it's about mentoring now new startup business owners, you know, and showing people how to get into this and taking away the things that I can control. Ultimately, they'll have to run their business. I cannot make your money. You have to make your money. I can help you protect your money and keep it going. And I can actually show you the path of where your money is going. So again, all of these things are happening at once in the business owner's head, bouncing around, you know, from hexagon to hexagon. Oh yeah, I do need to think, oh, this is overwhelming. I'm thinking about this so much. How do I actually get stuff done? And the number one pressure is you do not have to think about all of these hexagons every day. You just need to think about some of them, sometimes, some days. So if you say, look, I want to spend a couple hours a day on my business plan, a couple hours on looking at my inventory, a couple hours on donations, a couple hours while looking at my contracts, a couple hours talking to my banker, that's a full day, right? And you only touched 7 or 8 hexagons. That's the way it works. That's the way it works as a business owner. So today, and look, 11:31, boom. Today we're starting, 10:31 Eastern time. Today we're starting to take a couple of those hexagons down. And that's the LLC and the EIN. I feel like, in my opinion, these are the two that's the biggest gap between the people who want to start their business and the people that actually start their business. And that gap is huge because of the lack of information. So today I'm looking to have a real conversation about what these mean, and as well as, you know, how to best grow them. So again, go ahead, Shar.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions about what we presented so far about the business owner mindset? We don't want to just kind of run through this and not give you guys a chance for any input. So if you have a question, please post it on the comments of Facebook Live or in our chat room. So we want to make sure that we're having a two-way conversation going.
Yes, Shar, this is, you do not need to be scared. You do not need to worry that somehow, you know, your information is going to get out there and someone's going to steal your information. So as we do each week, or not each week, every other week, I guess we're going to start doing these. I take a Google Doc and I just start typing and creating a real life PowerPoint, because I think that people who come in with prepared PowerPoints or important information are cheating. If you know what you know, create it in front of me. So let's talk about this. Why do I need an LLC and EIN? One is you don't. So let's be clear here. You don't need to do this. You can very much go back to your job, et cetera, or keep doing what you've been doing, but you don't actually need LLC and EIN, right? If you have a business, then you want to create protection. Now, if I have a business, if I'm selling cookies, or in my case, selling water, right? Positivity, think positive, drink positivity. I could actually go out, get a bottle, fill it with, you know, highly alkaline water and put a cap on it and say, I'm selling this bottle, right? Anybody could do that. But if you do that, you have a business, the question is, what kind of business do you have? So you're the business owner. I decide that I'm going to start selling a product. I have a business. Now, the laws and the lawyers, like me, have a way of judging your business. And we have to call that something, even though you don't have to call it anything, because you're just selling bottles, right? You're selling bottles of water. So you don't have to call it anything. And hopefully the kids in Atlanta who are selling water will be able to identify with this, because this is how you actually start a bottled water company, okay? If you decide to do that, you have a business, but in our business, it's called a sole proprietor, right? What does that mean? That means a person who has a business, but has done nothing to show everybody that their business is actually active. So in the business world, to actually have a way to show that your business is part of something, you have to record it somewhere publicly, okay? So the first step is to let people know you have a business. In order to do that, you have to kind of go through some steps. So you have a business, but you say, I want people to know about my business. And the states have come up with a bargain for you. They've said, listen, if you want to take that business that you're doing, selling water, and you want to make it publicly known, and you want us to be able to acknowledge it, we're going to give you a birth certificate for your business. Like, what? Like, yes, we're going to actually, us, the state, is going to actually acknowledge your business and give you a birth certificate, right? And the birth certificate that they give you is called the Articles of Incorporation. Sorry, Articles of Organization. If you have a corporation, it's called Articles of Incorporation, but we're not talking about corporations today. What is a corporation? A corporation is another entity that the state offers you for that same acknowledgement. So the state has a menu of birth certificates. They have a birth certificate for a limited partnership. They have a birth certificate for a corporation. And they have a birth certificate for an LLC. So LLC stands for Limited Liability Company. And that's the best birth certificate to get if you're thinking about starting a business. If you get the corporation birth certificate, it has more responsibilities than just reporting to the state. The state says, I'll give you this corporation's birth certificate, but I need you to keep some records. And you're like, oh yeah? And give them to you, state? And like, no, don't give us the records. You keep them with yourself. Okay, well, state, how are you going to know if I'm keeping my records if I have my corporation birth certificate? And they go, oh, we won't know. You'll know when you get sued by an attorney and he asks you for them. And you're like, oh, okay. The LLC says that, hey, I'm going to give you your LLC birth certificate. And now your LLC will protect you as long as you pay your annual fee to your respective state. So that's why you want an LLC birth certificate over a corporation birth certificate, because you have to do less work for the protection of not being sued. Now, can you be sued if you put the LLC birth certificate around your business? The answer is yes, you can be sued. However, your business will protect you from that lawsuit. Because you have the LLC, they cannot come through to get you. And you can tell them, hey, this is a matter between you and my LLC, because that's the birth certificate that I have, and that's the right that I have. So therefore, this issue is with the LLC.
So
now,
Dave,
yes.
The question, so what you're saying is that with an LLC, all of my personal assets are protected, and anyone trying to sue my company, they cannot attack my personal assets.
Yes, that actually is part of it, is that your assets are protected. Now, you can do things to unprotect your assets. So you have a business, they have the LLC wrapped around the business, therefore they can't get to you because the LLC is protecting you from being sued. So what can I do that causes me to get sued separate from my business? You have to pull yourself out of the LLC and sign for documents, or start treating your LLC like you, meaning that you start taking the business money and using it for personal things. Start taking your business credit card that we're going to get later for the business. It's like using your kid's social security number to go open up a credit card and use it on behalf of your kid. That's what happens when you take your business credit card and you swipe it for personal items. That action could still get you sued. So just by saying, oh, I have an LLC, there's still another level of making sure that you don't do something wrong with it. And doing something wrong with it is taking the LLC and treating it as your personal. That's kind of what happened with the gentleman who took some of the federal loans and was recently prosecuted because his personal use of the funds allocated for the business. I'm sure if he'd hired 50 people and put some trucks on the road, there'd be no harm, no foul. But people choose to make personal decisions with their business. And that's the trade-off with that birth certificate. You treat that articles of organization like something other than, you know, a separate entity, then those people will come after you and say, you and the business are both exposed because your LLC is basically a fraud in the front for your own personal use. So, but this is a wonderful birth certificate. In fact, I like to usually recognize the LLC birthdays. So when you get your articles, they'll actually have a birth date on them. So what are the kind of things that goes into this birth certificate? And remember, this certificate is actually public. The articles of organization, it's public information. So now the public gets to look at this. So what are the kind of things that the public wants to look at? The name, right? The name is on there, right? The date of formation, got to have that. A mailing address where I can locate this business, a registered agent. In some states, it's called a resident agent, right? That's the person I'm going to talk about all of these, but I want to get them out as time starts to leak into the future. An organizer, and they'll have optional provisions. What does that mean? That means you wanted to make a public statement when you see that optional provisions. Okay, that means you want to actively say something other than this information 1 through 5. You want to say something else to the public about this LLC that you want them to know about. Okay, this is where usually the attorney comes in because you're not sure what you want to say to the public, but there's things you should not say to the public, like what's your social security number? Who are the owners of your company? Your tax ID number, your EIN. Don't put that in any other optional provision section or any other things you want to add to your LLC. That's all going to be made public. And I'm going to pull up my LLC here shortly so that you guys can actually see that. So specifically, we got to get to those articles of organization and get those filed in your state so that you can have that sort of protection. Another thing though, however, I'm going to go push this back here, is that you want to be able to build a public record and then establish credit. Just like a kid, when you form that LLC, that's the date upon which you actually become a real business. So you could say, hey, I've been in business for 10 years. And the first thing I do is I go to your public records and look when it was filed. And if you were just filed 2 years ago, in our word as attorneys, your protection started 2 years ago. Everything before that is all game because you only formed that LLC 2 years ago. But if I'm also a bank or a lender, I can then see, oh, you formed this a while back and you've been keeping up with it. So these are all important elements of getting the LLC done for a business. But remember, your business is you. So this is only something you provide to the state that you're doing business. You give them this information and they provide you with your birth certificate, which is your articles. You can do it yourself. You can hire attorneys to do it. It depends on your skill set in your state in filling out these articles because they're not easy to always navigate and understand who they are. The registered agent, that has to be the address in your state. So it needs to be a person and address in your state. The organizer has no legal rights to the company. They're just a filer. Now, you'll see on the LLCs, people will have organizers and people will say, oh, wow, you own the company. No, the organizer is just the person who actually went through the process to file the document at the state. Think of it like as a clerk or like, you know, somebody, like a delivery service. The organizer, that's all that is. The organizer should explain in writing, if the person is not the owner, who the owner is. So you have a separate document from an organizer. So if you've used Rocket Lawyer or LegalZoom, they were your organizer and they sent you a certificate saying, hey, I formed this for you, but it's yours. And then you show that to the bank, because some bankers will not understand this and look and go, oh, you're not the organizer on here. I don't know what I'm going to do. And you say, look, I went to Dave Walker and he told me this is the organizer and this is it. So I am the owner. So these are the elements, though, you have to kind of think through, but they're not difficult. But, you know, if you feel like you can navigate through your state and get through it, then great. So how do you form an LLC at the state level? Usually some corporation division, a corporate division, or it's usually the Secretary of State, right? And then you always can file an attorney. All right, so let's go on to the federal tax ID number. This is a real short. What is that? That's the Social Security number for your business. And where do you get it? You get it at the IRS, right? So what happens? Now you have your business, you got your LLC, Dave formed your LLC, you did it yourself, whatever. Got your LLC, you still have to put another layer around this bubble. Now you move over to your next hexagon. Oh, one last point on the LLC, you need to do an annual fee. Usually most states, some have, most have annual fee, some are free. But you need to figure that out. Whatever email you put down for your business, they'll send it to that person. And they'll usually send it to your registered agent as well, saying that, you know, you need to pay your annual fee. But now you have to say, okay, I want to open up a bank account. They like the fact that they publicly can see you, but you need a EIN, or what's called your employer ID number from the IRS, as your social security for your business. So just like we talked about the birth certificate, the EIN is social security number. It's actually the same number of digits. Form your LLC first, then get your EIN. LLC first, then EIN. So after you've received your articles of organization from the state, you could then have those in case the IRS has questions about this business you're forming and why it needs a EIN, or a social security number. But you go online, fax, you talk to an accountant, you can go through the process of filling out an SS4 form. Now, could you do this yourself? Absolutely. But when you fill out that form, the IRS has a menu of options, just like the menu of options in the state. Hey, you want your business birth certificate, LLC, corporation, etc. IRS has a menu as well of options on how you want to be taxed. And that depends upon how your cash flow works. Your revenue will depend on what's the best way to pick the menu item. We cannot talk about the menu item in the next 2 minutes. All you need to know is that the menu items are confusing because they name the menu items similar to the names of the birth certificates. So one of the menu items for the IRS is, sole proprietor. That sounds familiar. One of the menu items is called partnership. One of the menu items is called S Corp. One of the menu items is called C Corp. Nonprofit, or excuse me, 501c3 is a menu item. So a lot of times people will read articles and they'll say, I would like to have that menu item of S Corp because it applies to my business and I'm going to have a landscaping business and pay myself. So they would sometimes go get the birth certificate and the state says, which birth certificate would you want? Well, I got a S corporation menu item from the IRS, therefore I'm going to get a corporation. Wrong. You picked the hardest corporate birth certificate because you were looking to get the right menu item. You can form an LLC and still pick the menu item S Corp. S and C Corp. C Corp is a menu item. S Corp All these menu items are just named after tax code sections. But you need to talk to an attorney, or excuse me, an accountant, to figure out what's your menu item. They will give you a default menu item when you form an LLC of sole proprietor or disregarded entity. But you can change your menu item in the same tax year. So if you've already gotten that EIN, you're not sure if you're in the right menu item, you go to your accountant and go, look, this is what I did. This is the menu I picked. Can you tell me if it's right? In any case, you use those, the LLC, and you use the Social Security number. The birth certificate is the articles, and the Social Security number, which is the EIN. You use those two items to go open up a bank account and do some of the things we talked about in the other slides. So I'm going to go back to the slide. I'm going to give everyone a chance to ask questions about anything that you've heard so far that you, on the process, that you'd like to offer or ask a question on, and go from there. So Shar, did you have any Facebook questions, any Zoom questions, any of your own questions that might help?
Well, I mean, one of the things that it was a little bit confusing when you talked about the different menu items and the different things. So maybe we can go ahead and put together a mini document to send out to people to kind of clarify that, just giving them a better breakdown of what the different menu items are and, you know, how to kind of weed through that.
Well, I think that's a fair question. I think that today is hopefully showed the value of an attorney and accountant. You're going to have to, everyone's going to have to decide how much of the information I provided today is going to get them further in their business and how much they're going to outsource to other people. So when it comes to forming an LLC, if what I said today kind of went over your head in terms of what your menu items are, talk to an attorney or go research it. I mean, if you have a specific question, I can answer it. But and the same thing when it comes to the EIN. If this went over your head in terms of what the menu items selections are, you need to talk to an accountant. Today is just to get you that much further to understand that there is a menu. Some people don't know that there's a menu. So today is to say, hey, if you form an LLC, there's a menu on how to do it. I mean, there's options other than the LLCs out there, and you don't have to just pick that one. Make sure you pick the right menu item. If also, when you go to the IRS, make sure you pick the right menu item for your EIN. I cannot tell you what to put into those specific things and what ingredients go into your menu item. All I can say is the result of that is something that won't last forever. I can form an LLC and an EIN if I wanted to same day by noon, okay? I can get both of those done within hours. Some people, it takes months. They overthink this because at the end of the day, this choice of your LLC and your EIN, it's not your business. Your business is going out and getting customers, et cetera. You shouldn't spend a whole lot of time locked in this discussion over which menu items for your state and which menu items for your IRS. It's not that deep. And there's people out there who spent their whole lives learning these things, right? And they can do it in seconds. So to your point, Shar, I think that, you know, it can be confusing. And I don't think that we have enough time to cover everything because we want to get to the people who maybe have these questions, but hopefully today it realized though it's not life or death. We're going to go through and I'm going to show an actual LLC filing too. So you have another question so that we can answer those questions while I pull this up?
So Tanisha, she said that she couldn't really talk, but she just wanted to say good morning. And
good morning, good morning.
Good morning, Tanisha. She says, I have a small bookkeeping and tax business and that she's trying to expand it. She said she just secured a new, very good contract for her business, and she was thinking about switching from sole proprietorship to LLC, and that she's located in Los Angeles. So I think maybe some of the things you just talked about gives the benefits of switching from a sole proprietorship over to an LLC.
That's right. And if we go back to this, it's not just the having your articles, but all the things that the articles allow you to do in terms of opening up a bank account and things of that nature. You can open a bank account in your LLC's name.
Okay.
So there's more benefits than just, some people say, well, I'm not making enough money to be sued. Well, that's fine, but you still want to be able to register your business to get loans. Don't you want to hire people one day to get, you know, when you go to get your sales tax ID, if you're selling products, they're going to ask for your EIN. Do you want to keep giving people your social security number? because you don't have one for your business. And so that's some of the things you have to consider.
Okay. And then next, as Damone Anthony would like to hear her perspective. So go ahead and
Hi,
Hello, how you doing?
I'm Damani actually.
Damani.
Anthony. It's okay. And currently I'm a stay-at-home mom and I got laid off from my full-time job back in March. So I also have a yoga instructor certificate for 200 level. So I'm interested in being more of a private lessons teacher. And I've just been finding it really hard to balance my time because now I'm not an employee, but I'm trying to get the business mindset, but I'm also focusing on my son, which is my main priority I keep coming back to. So I've been gathering some clientele, but I haven't been able to. So I just want to, like what should be the best besides, asking for help. Because I know it takes a village to raise children.
Yeah. No, listen, the first thing is it's not an immediate return. What the hardest part about starting a business is that the immediate needs don't always fit the real life situation. And so sometimes you have to say, you know what, I'm just going to take what I have that's on my side and use it. And the number one thing you have on your side is time. Okay. So you got to use all your time to gather information. Anytime the kids are not around, you being on this call today is the right step. Is you got to say, I'm going to take part of my day and allocate time towards educating. Number one thing is you have to get a bank account. And if you have a personal bank account, use it. But the question is, how do you get somebody to pay for your service, right? Forget about the LLC for a minute, but just say, if I went right now to offer a service, how would people pay? So if I wanted to pay you for your service, would I Cash App you? Would I PayPal you? How would I pay you right now if I said, hey, I wanted you to be my yoga instructor and walk me through some Zooms, and I'm going to pay you $5. You say I'm doing $5 yoga sessions. If somebody gives you $5 for anything, then you're in business. So the first thing is to kind of take what you have and create a business by getting somebody to give you money. So tonight, you put on Instagram, I'm doing $3 yoga sessions, right?
Yeah.
You're in business and you see what happens. And if you're enjoying yoga and somebody gives you $3 anyway, then that's business. Now you're going to tweak that, right? You're going to say, okay, well, maybe I can have outdoor yoga. Maybe I can do other things, but the key is to get the money into the bank account. As you start to do that, so you'll start to think about, oh, well, I need a better bank account because now I got, $12
So
in my
far,
account.
I've been gathering some, revenue, which is I'm doing like $10 every half an hour.
Okay.
So I had a neighbor, my son is here. So
Hey son, how's he doing? He's fired up.
Houston, always. But overall, I've been, obtaining cash, sometimes Apple Pay, or now I just got Cash App. But it's like I'm confusing myself. Like I got it all, but
listen,
like,
do
you advertise it that way? Is that something?
Yeah,
I see it.
Listen, there is no clear answer to how to start a business. You can't have the perfect business to start a business. None of my clients, who, if any are on here, ever had the perfect business. I didn't have the perfect business when I started. What you can do is say, this is what I have and build on it, and don't give yourself any time pressures. Don't say like, oh,
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, time is the worst thing you can do to your goals. The worst thing. Because when you do that, you put artificial, demands on who you are. Your goal
and
is
the expectations I have,
especially
for the short-term goals, have been changing since 17. I thought I was going to get my bachelor's. I dropped out in 3 years. Thought I was going to go back, became a mom, my gap year. 2019, I was doing yoga and also pregnant. So it was like, I was just amazed at myself each year. And I'm just like, these aren't the expectations I had. And now I'm, somewhere where I want to grow from. I'm not upset, but it is a hardship because I don't have that adjustability to do it and move when I want to. Well, because now I'm a full-time mom.
Well, here's some really good news. One of the things that David and his law firm is providing is a free consultation. So I am about to post the link on the Facebook page and the chat room. So you can go ahead and click on the link and schedule a free 15-minute consultation with me.
Yeah, that would definitely be very beneficial because I think I have some things, but I just need to fine tune them. Yeah. Get the right jargon behind me.
Good, good. So hopefully I gave you enough today. You're doing the right things. You're just grinding it out. It takes some time, but everything has to be done now. And you're just doing a little bit each day, but you're not under any pressure. Just kind of keep grinding, and you're going to keep coming up with ideas and keep trying stuff. Keep trying. You want to post it? You have Apple Pay? Post it. I mean, who's going to sue you? If you perform a good service, no one's going to sue you. You take people's money and don't do something, they're going to sue you. So don't worry about how people pay. If they want to feel your energy, feel your yoga, then they'll pay. Don't worry about it. And then as you make money, you'll use it to, that's the thing. When you make money, keep putting it back into the business. Like, okay, now I'm going to use this for this. And just keep folding it over and over again until it'll start folding so much it has extra money spinning off of it. So somebody had a question?
Yeah, David, we have a very special person here that would like to ask a question. Miss Cheryl Walker.
Oh, okay.
You better be on your P's and Q's.
I am. I'm ready.
Very funny. It's not really for you. It's for the young lady who just spoke. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hear you.
So I was in a somewhat similar. So I was a stay-at-home mom for about 15 years. And because of the way our lives were, I went from not one thing to I was just always my kids were my focus. And it didn't stop me from pursuing what I wanted to do. It just, like Dave said, it took there was no time restraint. And he was a big proponent of that. He was like, sweetie, take your time, do what you need to do. I want you to make sure that when you do it, that it's something you want to do and that it fits with your personality. So in your case, with the yoga, if it's something that you're strongly convicted about, that you really want to do, your kids are not going to go anywhere. Your drive and passion won't go anywhere. Dave, God willing, won't go anywhere. But the more importantly, even if he does, the opportunity to start your, to make it an LLC or transform into an LLC will still be there. But the key is that you're not under any time restraints to do it. Just keep going at it. Keep building your client base. Keep perfecting your craft. Keep on the grind and make sure that it's something that you actually want to do. Would you do yoga for free? Well, then, okay, if you really get that much pleasure in it and it really enlightens your life like that, then maybe you have the right track. But it doesn't mean that you have to wait. I mean, that you have to go get your LLC tomorrow. It took me 10 plus years to form my LLC before I finally made sense of it all. So I can really reiterate what he says about, there's no time there's no time on it. Just, when it makes sense for you, when the time is right, form your LLC, get your EIN, go ahead and start your bank account, because by then you would have had a following of yo guys or whatever, or, like you would have had a client base. You would have been in the system long enough to know that, all right, now I'm going to establish myself. But now I have a track record. Now I have, clients. Now I have a studio. Now I have whatever. So that's all, my 2 cents.
Well, thank you, Cheryl. That was really good to hear from somebody else on the call about just how to go ahead and get started, because sometimes that's just the hardest thing for us to do, is really be willing to take the first step and the next step, and, not to be afraid of falling down, because once you fall down, guess what? You figured out what not to do, and all you got to do is get back up and do it all over again. So at this point, we're going to go back to David, and we're going to look at a real life example of how to form, I guess, what are you going to do? File the articles and
No, I'm just going to show them the public birth certificate. We talked a lot today about hypotheticals, but I want to take you through real life. First, I found this site. Let me go back, because everyone was like, how do you get there? So if you go to the Georgia Secretary of State and get to the Corporations Division, eventually you'll get to this page. And again, this is not advocating that people should form their LLCs in Georgia. This is just showing you what works already. So I don't need anyone saying, Dave told me to do this, because I did not tell you to do that. I told you to talk to an attorney, okay? But here, I'm gonna just let you do, you can do searches. This is free. There's no need to, there's no one who is, I'm not giving you any secret. So when someone says, hey, I'm doing business with someone, I'd come here and just to see who they're doing business with. And if you come here and you search, oh, okay, you're doing business with Star Walker Industry. I heard of them. Anyway, this is public information. You click on it, you get some information here that was on that list. You get the company, it's an LLC, the birth certificate, right? This is the birth certificate public information. This is the principal address of the business. This is the date it was formed, the birthday, November 4th. So they've been in business. They filed their annual registration this year, so 6 years. And this is the person that you have to contact in case you need to give any official information. This is the registered agent. You could actually look at more information. You can say, oh, they've been in business since 2014. Well, let me see. So you can click on this, the formation documents. You can actually see the birth certificate, the real one. Okay. Oh, wow. Certificate of organization, Star Walker Industries. Okay. November 4th. It's all right here. Oh, Brian Kemp. Oh, no. Brian Kemp signed that. Let me get out of this and find another document. Then you have this document here, right? You have your articles of organization. Wow. That's what Dave talked about. And look, it's all right here. The name of the company at the time, the name of the business. I miss Atlantic Station. It's getting reformed. I haven't been down there, but once it opens, it looks nice. I miss having an office down there. But originally I was down there. I formed it. All this information is right here, and then under optional provisions, I want people to know that I'm the manager, that when you're dealing with this company, talk to Dave Walker. So if you see this, and you're dealing with me, you're like, oh, you're talking to Dave Walker? Yeah, he's definitely not just the organizer or the resident agent. He actually is the one in control, manager, not member, but manager, the manager of the company. So at that time, the selection was member manager. I didn't like that. Now you can actually say manager, but this should not have been there as an option, but that was the only option they had back in 2014. Anyway, that's just a little bit of background on how it actually looks when you go out, and you can actually get up-to-date information by pulling up the latest filing, right? This is all the information. Tells you that they filed it recently in April, and you can update the information here if you need to change it. If you need to change your registered agent, you do that here. So this is the result of the hard work. But again, this just sits in the file cabinet, right? This doesn't, you don't leave that on every day going like, what exactly is my articles? You just have it there and banks pull it down, etc. So we have some extra time for some more questions. Is there anyone else who wants to have any questions or raise their hand? That was the time. Anything on Facebook, etc.
Well, I see that Dean is back with us again this week. So thank you for joining us. Would you like to unmute and chat with us a little bit?
Yeah, I do have, you just brought a question to my mind. I started my firm 3 years ago, and I actually paid a consultant to come up with the LLC for the business I'm in. But in listening to people like you and learning more about the LLC, I realize I haven't done a lot of things to separate myself from the business, and I'm in the process of now correcting all that, or trying to. The question is, am I exposed to liability if I didn't have all these things you're talking about, in place, and then start correcting it? Or how would you define when I'm kind of protected properly, from when I start doing it correctly, or when the client is engaged, or, I'm not even sure I'm asking the question right.
You're saying that you might have felt like, whether you had an LLC or a corporation, that there was a moment in time where you weren't doing all the things that might necessarily give you the full level of protection. And
Absolutely.
Even if you're fixing it now, whether those times where you weren't doing it, there was exposure. I would say as time goes on, the exposure hole closes more.
Okay.
Right. So you start doing the right things now for the next, 3 or 4 months on something that you were not doing the right thing a year ago. That's a huge exposure hole. Right. It's like,
right.
Hey, you just did this.
Right.
So in law, they have what's called the statute of limitations before somebody
Okay.
could actually sue you. So you actually have, from a legal perspective, I think it's 6 to 7 years. It depends on your state.
Right.
But you have a time where people can actually sue you. So at the maximum, you have that as a business, and then it starts to, every 6 years going forward. So I would say
Okay.
that, don't lose a lot of sleep on the past. I tell people that all the time. You don't lose any sleep on it. Say, look, this is what I'm doing now. I know, and it is what it is. But yes, as time goes on, that'll be less of a concern.